Okay. Um, where do I start? How did I feel walking into the funeral home? Overwhelmed. It was a lot to take in, and I'm not sure if the fact that I recently went to a funeral, if that played a part in anything. Um, Everything was a bit dark, although there was nothing going on. It was just this uneasiness that I felt. Um, and very unsure. It was, yeah, it was big, it was spacious, it was dark. Even when they put the light on, it didn't show, it didn't do too much. And I guess it kind of makes sense because as when a funeral is going on, how would it look if it was bright in there and such? I guess out of respect. I was shown, which was really weird for me. They had a coffin showroom, which was it was a lot to take in. You know, he opened the door slowly and puts on the light, and here you go, all these coffins, and it was a lot. All shapes and sizes. The price range was ridiculous. It was a lot. And he noticed that I looked at the price tags, well, cards. And he explained to me like why, certain ones are more expensive, and it all goes down to detail. If it's wood, if it's metal, and what people usually go for. And I asked him like, how do you feel when you bring the families in there? Like, is it ever really difficult? And he said that he doesn't do that in the first meeting. He prepares them and says, if you want, you can choose the coffin now, or, we can wait and you can come back. Sometimes families send like a representative or someone else to do that because, as I said, it's a bit difficult sometimes. He also showed me the room where the arrangements are done with the families, and there's two. He showed me the catalog, and it's crazy to me because I never once thought that this is actually a business. As weird as that may sound, you associate funeral homes with sadness and saying goodbye to someone, and it's just something that not everyone likes to go to. And he did mention that, he said, funeral homes have this huge, this bad reputation, and he's always trying to minimize that because people, for some reason, think like, you're taking advantage of me because I lost someone, and you expect me to pay this much for this and that. Which is why he also stressed the importance of getting life insurance, which he does there as well, he said. So then he showed me the catalog, and, if the family gets them cremated, he also showed me the urns. So that was different. Then he showed me like this little room where they have like I forget what word he used, but it was like the leftover coffins, and they offer that to those families who are not able to afford the coffins in the showroom. These are a bit more affordable, but they're not as nice looking and new. They're usually ones from the factory that kind of just like last one to go or whatever the case may be. So I thought that was really interesting to see because they actually do care about the community, and they know the community, they know there are low-income families, and, they can't dish out $4,000 for a coffin. So, okay, well, what can you afford? Okay, this is what we can do. So I thought that was really interesting and nice to see. He offered to show me the room where they prepare the bodies, but I wasn't ready to see that. But he told me like everything happens on site. He usually does the embalming. There is another funeral director, but he doesn't usually do it, especially if it's a young person, um, because he has a family of his own, so he gets a bit emotional, and that was one of my concerns. Well, not concerns, but questions. Is how does it affect your family life? Working there. Um, and then he said that it doesn't get easier. It just you realize it's work. It's your job, and of course you feel for the family, and you might get emotional here and there. Um, and he also stressed the importance of not being too business with them because you don't want to push them away. Um, for them to pull back, he's professional and yet friendly, and then he kind of tries to get to know the family, like if they're good with humor, and he tries to read the signs, and that's something that he learned throughout the years that he's been in this business, is getting the family's cues, and going forth on that. He was really friendly, the funeral director who gave me the tour. I also met a resident who was there as well, and that was quite interesting. I didn't even know that existed. I know, right? Just thinking, you have to go to school for a year, and then a year residency, and then you could start working. It's just like, and all the exams they have to take. It's a lot. He was very approachable. He was very helpful. When I went in person to ask if I can have a tour and ask a few questions, and we set up an appointment. And he was really welcoming. He thought I was actually pursuing that career. So I had to explain to him what child life was and so forth. So I was getting a little quizzed about child life. I learned that there's more than just a funeral. There's a lot to do and a lot to take in, and there are these funeral directors that are trying their best to make it easier for the families, and that it is a business. It is a career. Um, I know that's probably not something you guys were looking for. But it amazed me because, when I asked him about, how did he get in this field and what made him want to do this, and, it's real basic answers like, oh, it was a short amount of time in school, and he saw a friend do it, and this and that. But as years progressed, he learned that he was helping families, and he saw that he had to learn about different cultures and different religions so that he's able to cater to them, and he already knows what to expect from them, and kind of, as I said, like the Filipinos, they like to bring food, like he was actually breaking down each culture to me, and what was in the community. So I thought that was interesting and helpful. You wouldn't think that a funeral director would do that. It's just, yeah, you come and do this. No, like he really tries to get to know them and tries to help them cope with this. Another thing that I learned was they actually get to know the community. And because this funeral home has been around for a good amount of time, I think it was 50 years or 60. So he said even people who had left the community, if a loved one has deceased, they come back there. And then they talk about the memories and, remember this, remember that. And the owner does come around when there are services and so forth. And he talks to the family if need be. And I already spoke about what surprised me. but it was overall, this experience was really, really interesting. Just to see behind the doors, you know. And I don't know if funeral homes will ever get that non-sadness vibe, you know, because they're associated with this. But I think it's really, really helpful that he even said, like, you can give the tour to the family as a whole and not leave the child out, you know. I know I briefly said this in a reflection, that when my great-grandmother died, I was left home to take care of the kids, and I didn't have the understanding. I knew she was gone, but there was still that empty space. Maybe it was the fact that I never said goodbye, you know? Maybe it was the fact that I never really had that closure, which is why that ring meant so much to me, is when it was given to me, it's like, okay, like, I have something of her, so I will always remember her, you know? So to prepare a child to do this, you know, to go to a funeral home and to include them, gives them that little respect, you know, and, you know, they're people, you know, and I think it would be helpful to give them, you know, that sense of smell, you know, what do you hear, what you may hear, what you might see, you know, what you might feel, you know, it's usually cold in there. Why is it cold? Why are people doing this? Why are people laughing? You know, why are people, you know, on their phones? Like, there's so many questions, and I feel like we might be able to prepare them for that ahead of time, and wonder if a child life specialist would be able to actually go with them to the tour. I think that would be quite interesting. Or maybe go to the chapel, if the hospital has one, and kind of go through that process with them. And I'm wondering if it's best to prepare for the patients, you know. When I spoke about kids, I'm siblings and so forth, or children of the adult patients. But I wonder if we could do that. We should do that for the patients as well, just so that they're a part of it. I don't know. That's something to think about. So thank you. It was really interesting to see, and I'm actually glad I did this. And you know, it was a little scary at first and nerve-wracking, but overall it was really interesting, and it was good to learn about.